Hey there, Jill. How you doing, darling? Stuart here with my very first video, especially for you. It won't be at ABC level, recording level, bit rough and ready and cowboy style. But there's plenty of gold in here for you, darling. Um, yeah. So much vassal here about your trials and tribulations. So I want you to listen to this video. It's only really 15 minutes. Focus on it, just you and me, and focus on the video because there's some real gold in here just for you. All right. So this first slide is about mindset for new survival strategy. When you're diagnosed with cancer, you go into a new strategy. Um, I never walked in your footsteps, but I could see you looking at all the different chemo options, and then later on you're trying different trials of chemo. Very natural path to take in those cases. But one thing that definitely happens is that we go into a different mindset. It's like a warfare mentality. Uh, so in that process, what's the objective? We're looking at just solving a problem that we've never had to solve before. So the first point's really it's, it's like a term used by some think tanks, which is we don't know what we don't know. It's a reference to blind spots, like you have a blind spot when you're driving a car behind each of your shoulders. So rear vision or side mirrors give us a view to those blind spots. This term is about blind spots in our thinking. So I'm going to touch on that now, just to and I'll go to the next point, which is locating and removing workplace thinking patterns. By that I mean, go to the next point before we go through that point in detail. Being totally focused on survival. That's really been a priority for you for since you're diagnosed with cancer, right? Along with catch up with friends and family. So that absolute priority. Now to go back to workplace mentality, we can spend 5, 10, 15, 40, 50, 70 or 80 hours a week at work. So at our workplace, it's where most of our thinking, communicating, presenting, discussion, and debating takes place. We refine and mature our thoughts. Very natural. So when we come into a situation, we can tend to think that way. For you, if you're covering a story or a book or a movie, you're looking at the pros and cons, positives and negatives, and an entertaining way to package all of that for an audience that's going to hear it or watch and hear it on television. What I mean by that is it's easy to slip into that mode of being the journalist. When I go through this slide set, I need you to not be the journalist at all, to avoid that, and just take the point of view. Um, this is about survival. I need to turn over every stone, so I'm going to look at every option I've got. I want you to hold on to that mentality. All right. This slide and the next two slides are about just a typical example of a patient visiting their doctor. So they have a few concerns about blood pressure and mention that to the doctor. In this first case, it's just typical way it can take place in Australia. So the doctor does a range of tests, and then they prescribe a range of medication and discuss their situation. When the patient discusses it, diet and some workout is discussed, and that's the end of the meeting. The doctor also organises for the patient to come back for checkups just to make sure everything's okay. Now we'll go into alternative A. Similar, same doctor and patient, but after doing the test, the doctor does this and prescribes the patient to firstly commence a gradual cardio program with an experienced personal trainer, and also to see a dietitian about lowering their fat, lowering sugar, and lowering salt to help them with their diet. Then the GP has a quick conversation, a bit detailed, with the patient and says, look, your body is like treating your car where you didn't service your car for 4 years. No change of oil filters, spark plugs, etc. And he says, how would your body be? The patient kind of laughs and says, yeah, it'd be run down, doc. You're exactly right. And what happened around that period is 3.5 years ago, my wife got pregnant, and instead of one baby, we had twins. So we're overwhelmed, and that lasted really 3.5 years, exactly roughly the period that you're talking about. So the conversation is really about causes, real causes in lifestyle that can affect our health. And so that's one of the key points of this slide. So the next slide, looking at just a beautiful embryo uh, in in progress in their mother's womb. So that's just the miracle of conception. There's cell multiplication. DNA from the father and mother is spliced, and they have unique characteristics from mom and dad, and also their totally unique personality, which can differ from child to child, even in a very large family. I want to keep that in mind, that miracle. It happens in one baby, but actually there can be 6 to over 10 million mothers concurrently carrying a baby, because we have 80 million new babies every year. So what this is about is really having the mentality, just in terms of God, just look purely at God's work, like nature, viewing nature, and it's just like you look at nature in this world. It's really beautiful. If we look at the parks and the beaches, Meriwether Beach, man and people, we just pollute it, we exploit it, and in fact, with climate change, we can be destroying the world. But what I'm saying is, with just like the earth is better without us, God also, and his beauty in childbirth, where that can lead to someone beautiful like Malia, that's God's miraculous creation. And it needs to be perceived without man. Man is usually a problem to God. Alright, so let's look at alternative B. It includes its alternative A, where we review physical health, cardiovascular, and diet, but also there's a mind and spirit, where it's really just saying get our lifestyle retuned to the Bible. So different points, but there's 2 points in alternative B. But it's very much about the same thing, where we're just reviewing our lifestyle. What has changed um, in our lifestyle? And quite often the physical aspects can be looked at, workouts and diet, but we very rarely look at changing our lifestyle or retuning it, let alone to biblical standards. But that's exactly what Christ recommends as a key to solving sickness. Let me go into real specific detail. So, Jesus had a ministry of about a bit over 3 years, miracle signs and wonders, and healed everyone of everything, whoever came to him. And I'm going to pull out two pieces of gold. There's a lot of miracles there, but two real pieces of gold that often Christians miss in sharing to you or me, or just in how they pray for people that are sick. John 5:14 and John 8:11 are two of the many, many cases, but they're unique in that after healing them, Jesus said, look, you're made whole, your situation's restored, go and sin no more, unless a worse thing come upon you, as in a worse sickness. Jesus is saying there, sickness is directly related to sin. A sinful life, where it's maintained, can lead us on into deeper and worse sickness. He's saying there's a definite connection. So, what's that about? So, it's really Christ isn't really into the sin or the judgment. We can look at John 8:11, John chapter 8, just briefly. And what it is in that chapter, the Pharisee leaders bring an adulteress to Jesus and throw her at him and say, look, the law says she should be stoned according to Moses' law. They're looking to see how Jesus handles it. And Jesus just says, that's true. The law says that. So the first one among you to throw the stone is the one without sin. And generally they leave one by one and no one stones her. They're convicted and look at their own sin. Then Jesus has this beautiful moment with the lady and says, where are your accusers? And she said, they're gone. He says, neither do I accuse you, even though he really could, because he's without sin. And he says, then go and sin no more. So Jesus there, he's not interested in the judgment or, the trial or the sin. He's just saying, go and sin no more. So that's really important. And what he's saying is, sort out your life, review it according to the Bible's ways, and things will become better. Your sickness can become healed. And that's really just gold, absolute gold. A lot of Christians and Catholics pray for you and just as if God is just Santa Claus and he just heals like that. And it can be a great misconception, and people think, well, God doesn't love me. But here's a real tie-in with our lifestyle. Then with Matthew 6:17, And I'll just go over that quickly again, is that God isn't cruel. He's just saying, look, the sickness is really a roadblock to really force you to think differently. And um, for people of God, they should really automatically realize, oh, I need to check, what am I doing wrong? I need to check my lifestyle. So now with Matthew 6 to 17, just the second point, it's Jesus said, when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face. Fasting is a commandment. Fasting is amazing. Now, Jesus himself fasted 40 days, and he did it immediately before starting his ministry of healing and deliverance and raising the dead. There's another scripture, Matthew 17:21. I'll email it to you. This is really gold. Now, a father has an epileptic son, brings the son to the disciples. They can't heal him, and then Jesus arrives and heals the son. So the disciples then ask Jesus and say, why couldn't we heal him? And Jesus said, some sicknesses are only cured by prayer and fasting. So fasting is the other uh, gold point for you. So two simple things, easily done and easily solved. So myself, I prayed and fasted for around over 15 years, and it's incredibly powerful. Uh, there's physical benefits many personal trainers are aware of, but I've had a number of cases where I've had a fever coming on. I felt it trying to attack my body feeling cold, throat starting to get sore, and I can pray and fast, and within 12 to 16 hours, or 12 to 20 hours, I can feel the sickness going. Not 3 or 4 days, 12 to 20 hours. It pushes the sickness away. And and Christ said, so there's just two points there for you, Jill. Simply done and applied and in your life. To remove the idols, how long does that take? Put them in a bag, all of them. The Buddha idols, all the wooden carvings and any engraved images, study that, put them in a bag and take them to another house in the garage. And then the second point is simply to fast, maybe once every 2 weeks. It could be just 16 to 20 hours. Do part of it on water and have some juice and some smoothies so you have energy. Check with your doctor on that, depending on your treatment, on the fasting. But generally, a lot of doctors and even personal trainers really support fasting and understand there are a range of benefits there. But in the spiritual aspect, it's really, really important. Now, when it says fast and pray, it doesn't mean you have to pray, you know, 20 hours. Just a prayer at the start and the finish for a minute or two. But the fasting is the key thing, where the fast is devoted to the Lord, not just for your health, but to Him. So there you go, my dear. Two simple things, easily done. So for me, that's given me the benefits where I haven't been a hospital. I haven't been hospitalized for 35 years, except for a fractured wrist. I'm on zero medication, nothing from doctors, and I don't even go to the chemist I don't have any medication or even vitamins that I'm taking. So this will work for you. It is pure gold and so easy to do. So if it doesn't work, this is how confident I am. I'll give you $30,000 of my inheritance to your family for a holiday. And if not, I'll spend 20 grand on a holiday ski trip or kite surfing in Hawaii so we can celebrate together. I love you, my dear. This is gold for you. And no cost, no side effects, no medicine, and something you can do so easily. And concurrently with your chemo or whatever treatment you're under. All right, bless you, my dear. This is for you. Please just apply it. Tap into it. Turn every stone over. Find that solution. This is definitely going to help you.